let's investigate a bit of just how we can onboard clients easier today in ShareFile. So I want to take a step back and first showcase just how to add clients. Remember, you can have as many clients as you want. That is separate from your actually employees here, which are your licensed users, which would have all the full features of your ShareFile account. But clients, you can have as many as you want. Again, those are usually the individuals that you're typically sharing externally from your organization, or of course, say within the company itself. So once we're in the Browse Client Contacts, you'll see up at the top right, a create new client contact. And from here, again, we always just ask for the basic information, first name, last name, email address. That's how we can identify users within ShareFile. And then also we do have a company field. That's also great to actually put in case you're trying to filter out clients from a certain company. But actually, I'm going to show you an even better way to be able to organize your clients today. So from here, we can click on add user and we continue to add users if we want to. So if we had multiple clients, we do have at the bottom here the ability to assign folders, to add them to a distribution group, or to copy access from an existing user. So we can gain access to folders right away and copy access from users, again, that already have access to certain folders that you want them to have access to. Now, if I do come back down and I actually do create and continue, it's going to ask me to send a welcome email. That will send that notification email to the client in question, and then they would activate their client accounts, and they would just need to provide a password. And if you do have MFA turn on for clients, that will also proceed with setting up their MFA. Now, we can also do it in bulk here. So in case we have a little spreadsheet template, but in case you had, say, a list of users already you need to import, maybe from another platform, this is super simple to do it. You would just simply download this template spreadsheet. It just has the columns that we see here that you could fill in, and then you could just choose the file and upload it directly in the ShareFile, and it'll create those users for you. Easy peasy, right? That's fairly simple. Again, we just need to add those clients beforehand. Now, outside of this, I can also create a client if I'm, say, needing to add them to a folder here. So if I add people to the folder, you have the create new user here. So that can help create the client for you. But also, say for instance, I wanted to share something to somebody and that client didn't exist already in ShareFile. I could simply come in here and say, for instance, I want to send to specific people. Now, this method is only going to work through the email method, not through just get a link. The reason for that is I can start typing in an email address here. As you can see, they're not in the system. It's not finding one already in the system, but I can send this email and this share directly to them. What this effectively does is it will actually send this person that again isn't a client in ShareFile yet, an email address with the link attached, but it will actually step them through activating their account before they can actually do what they need to do. Now, this is more true when you have the security option of requiring recipients to sign in. That's because, again, we need them to require them to log into a ShareFile account, but if they don't have one yet, this process actually allows them to activate that account all through that same email notification. So this is a great method that you should alert all your employees to do it because, again, email is a great method to kick off an activation with the client. So you don't have to sit here and create clients on the back end beforehand. In this way, it's a little more seamless. This also works with our Outlook plugin. So if you're familiar with our Outlook plugin, it's a small plugin that you can add into Outlook and you can actually create shares and requests directly from Outlook. And that also can create that activation email for the clients if they don't already exist as a client here. Now, let's go ahead and kind of step back also a little bit and think, wow, I'm adding a lot of clients here. How do I organize my clients? It's starting to get a lot, and I'm trying to organize it to a point where maybe I'm looking for clients that belong to a certain company. Like I said, we did have that company field, but how do I take that to the next step? That's where the Client Hub comes into play. Now, just to start off, if you don't see this on your panel on the left-hand side, this is in beta form right now. So you as an administrator should be able to go to Settings, Admin Settings, Advanced Preferences. And then as you'll see down here, you'll see a Client Hub Settings. And then you can enable the beta here for the Client Hub. And then make sure you just save. Let's go back into Client Hub. Now let's talk about what Client Hub actually does. So the theory behind Client Hub is the ability to organize clients into different entities, and it could be set up as, say, an individual client, or you could set up an entity like a company where you have several different other clients under it. So for instance, I've already created this one where it's John Doe and Company. And when I first create this, the first thing I can do is add contacts here. And you'll see below here, you'll have some contacts I already added in, John Doe and John Smith here. And what I can do here is off to the right, I can add or create new clients under John Doe and Company. So again, there's another method to create clients instead of just going through the traditional method, is to put this under an entity that they belong to. Now, as you can see, it has some traditional fields that you could fill into. And this is great because we had some added fields in terms of more particular information like their address and city and postcode, things of that nature. Also, I'll get back to this a little bit. You can actually generate custom fields on your own as well. So again, more information, the better in terms of referencing certain clients under the Client Hub. So once I've added clients in here, you'll see them under it. And I can edit columns, by the way, just to help organize certain aspects of how you want to view it. But then let's get into the reason why we are doing this in the first place, and that's to help track what access perhaps we want to see them in. So for instance, as you see, we have the Files tab here. As you can see, it has a couple different assortments of different things, like a folder, just like your traditional folder on the left-hand side under shared folders, but we also have project folders. So that's our premium offering under projects. They list that as well. And what really this does is it doesn't just give permission to the actual clients that are under John Doe, but if I needed to add files here and link folders from, say, an existing ShareFile, and as you saw there, we can also upload new files. But I can come in here and say, yeah, I know John Doe and Company typically is in the e-signature folder, so I want to add everything that is in here to the list. Oops, let me come back in. I can toggle that and add it. Now, again, this isn't actually applying any permissions to the folder. This is actually just allowing us to see perhaps they should have access to this folder or the files within it. So if I know that is something that could possibly be, I can always come in and see what those files are associated with. And I can also upload new files to it if I wanted to, and so forth. I can come back in here. Now also, as you could see, I can just open the folder location, and that'll take me directly to the folder. And thus, I can come in here and add those contacts under John Doe directly into this folder. So again, it's not really providing permissions to the clients, but it's giving that visual aid that, hey, under John Doe and Company, these individuals should have access to it. So it's basically a great overview of, hey, should they actually have access or not? It's a simple way of just coming into the Client Hub, coming in the John Doe and Company and in the files, and being able to either add new files or new folders that already exist. And then I can navigate directly to it and be able to add those contacts directly in so they can access them. But again, this gives a nice overview of just resources that perhaps John Doe and Company should have access to. Now, again, just like we have the folders in projects, we can actually link direct projects to John Doe and Company. Similar, right? Just to the folders. I'm just saying, hey, I need to link this company to projects because those have some kind of connection with John Doe and Company. It's not giving them permission automatically, but I have oversight now that I've added or can create new projects under here, so they're already under John Doe and Company. You'll see this kind of repeat throughout. When you actually enable Client Hub is you'll see link to client, and you could simply click that. And then as you can see here, I can add John Doe and Company, or again, I can add a new client or a separate independent client directly to this to link. So again, this just gives a great perspective of course, what access John Doe and Company should have, and it'll give me direct access to the project. And then from here, again, just like a folder, I can add those contacts directly into here and start sharing out. Now, once we're actually back in, you'll also see the overview where there's certain tasks that kind of come along with it, right? So remember, I linked a couple projects here, and as you could see, there are some documented requests that are still pending or haven't been submitted yet. So this gives an overview of just, hey, maybe John Doe and Company, the clients under them may need to attribute to something that is under these projects, and perhaps I should go ahead and add them to this particular request. And as you can see, it's already assigned here, but if these weren't assigned, I could come in here and assign it from here and just choose the John Doe contacts if I needed to. So again, very simple way to approach this in terms of giving access and overview for John Doe and Company and the contacts that are under it. It's just a very easy way of examining what access they should have and apply that access when needed. One thing that you saw when I was adding a client is that you could also add custom fields. So as you can see, I can add like a data ID field. So when I'm creating these entities, either for an individual client or a company, I have the ability to enter in that data ID field. So in case if there was like a reference number I needed to provide for easier tracking, I can. You can always just click on add custom field. And as you can see, we could just give it a name and also the field type if it was just a short text line, the single line, or if we need to add a lot more information, or it could just be a drop-down list with different options that you add here. And as you could see, remember, we can either add it just for the company entities or individual clients. So very customizable in terms of how we can actually present additional data for John Doe and Company with added fields. Now, as you see, when I actually created my John Doe and Company, I chose them as a company. But again, I can also add them as an individual. And this is what I did for Greg here. You can see they're color coded independently, so it's easier to see. Again, same concept in terms of who's been added. And it's just going to refresh real quick, be sure it's up to date. And then you'll see Greg is added here as a contact. Same concept here, just like the company entity, is I can add folders here and projects if I wanted to, and I would have an overview of anything outstanding like there was in that other project. But again, very simple way to be able to link folders and add them here and be able to access those directly so then I can give Greg permission to it. So give Client Hub a run and see if it works out for you. Certainly people that are starting out with their ShareFile account, I think this is a great way to kind of fit this into your process of adding clients, because this gives you a nice building block of how I can sort my clients under an entity or individually add them and manage that type of access from here. And again, also the addition of adding additional fields gives us, again, more information, more data about the individual or the company in terms of those custom fields. All right. So let's jump a bit into reporting. Now, just like we talked about clients, obviously clients are doing a million and one things in the back end, in your ShareFile instance. And obviously, things come up. You need to audit certain things. So let's just kind of see how we can report within ShareFile. There's a couple different ways, right? Now, administrators do have this under their employee account, where you do have an explicit permission to allow you to access reporting. Now, the reporting function is something as a whole you can report a lot more on, but there is also other reporting that, say, other users have access to. For instance, if, say, I was in this folder under Greg, I can come up to here, and as long as if I have admin access, I have the ability to view activity logs. And this is the same type of reporting an administrator can do on the back end, but this makes it really simple for folder administrators to just look at activity and what's actually happening in the folder. And as you can see, we have a snapshot here of just recent activity. So you see Greg uploaded a file today at 12:13 p.m., and it will give you just the path of what it was. But as you can see, you can filter down these different activities within this type of reporting. You can also include activity logs that are in subfolders. So right now it's only looking at that top level folder. If there were any other subfolders in there, you can also include that. And also if you want to just get a retrospect of a date or a frame of time, there are some drop downs here, but you can always choose custom and provide a custom date range. Do know that at the time of this actual webinar, you can go up to 90 days in terms of filtering. And we'll get into that a little bit more on some of the other administrative reporting here soon. But 90 days is the max. Definitely want to shorten that down if you're looking for something particular. Try to frame it as close as possible, but then start expanding that out. And then once you see what you need, you can always export that to an Excel. All right. So let's go into the actual reporting, the administrative reporting. And to do that, remember you need that permission just like I showed you under your employee account. But once you do, you can go under settings, admin settings. And we actually recently just renamed this to account and reporting. So it's simpler to spot out and drop that down and choose reporting. Now, a couple things about our reporting is we have just a one-time report you can run, or we do have recurring reports. Most of our reports in here do allow you to do one or the other. The nice thing about the recurring reports is it allows you to choose a folder within ShareFile to put that report into. So then you can add additional administrators to that folder and then get upload alerts when a report is done. Now let's take one example of a report. This is a usage report. This is a very common one. And as you can see, it's kind of similar to the photo report that we just did with in terms of the different activities. So I can narrow down and filter out if I was just looking for login access. I can uncheck everything and just keep login. Now at the top, you can customize the name of the report if you're looking for something. This is great for, again, being organized and assuring that you are looking at the right report. You do have that custom range. Again, remember 90 days is the max as of right now. That is something that is changing with some of the reporting efforts or upgrades that we're actually putting out soon. But right now it's at 90 days. You can go back in time though. Say for instance, I just wanted to go all the way back to 2024. I can do that, but again, it just needs to be in that 90-day frame. As you saw, whenever I was talking about recurring, so I can keep that on or off. Remember, if I choose no, that means it's a one-time report that I run. Or if I do yes, I will actually have to set up the reoccurrence of it. And then you'll see here is to generate, we can either choose it as an Excel or CSV file. We'll keep it as an Excel. With reoccurring, as you see now, we have the ability to either run this daily, weekly, out of the day of the month, or I'm sorry, day of the week, and then monthly, what day it runs on per month. And then you'll see at the bottom here, I need to put this somewhere, and I need to put this in my agreements folder. So when those ports run, they will end up under your agreements folder. So this is a great way, again, to kind of keep tabs on things. If you need constant audits, or you're, of course, for compliance reasons, you need to constantly assure that it's there, and you need to report on it. Recurring reports are the way to go. Now, just to talk about some of the advantages of reporting here, as you could see, I ran, say, a usage report. The great thing is I don't need to download this. I can simply view it within ShareFile without leaving. So I don't need to download anything per se. Maybe it's just a quick view that I need to look in. Maybe I'm just auditing something, but everything is columned here. And as you can see, it's done by activity here. So remember, I had options in terms of turning off different activities, but for this one, I just have it so that I included everything. But it's great because it includes who the user did the action, the email address, if there was a company that you put in for them, the IP address, and the location of the source of where they came in from and where the session was being held. So it's a very easy way to just quickly examine what's actually happening in your ShareFile instance. Now, I want to highlight one tip and trick here. That is our share report. And again, you could find that under here, and you will see the share report. And again, same options here. More so, instead of a folder, it's just either based on user or the whole account. So if I'm looking for something very particular, I could generate that. But this comes up a lot. So this tip and trick, when we're talking about share reports, is there's a lot of times where you need to examine who created a share. This is a great report that will show you who that is. Same thing, I can view it within here. And again, I can actually see the name of the share when it was being sent. So it's usually the file name, and additional information like when the share is going to expire and any attributes that were in the share. One tip and trick I wanted to show you is that you'll see throughout a lot of our reports certain IDs. So for instance, I have a share ID here. And for instance, if I wanted to look further into this, I can also leverage our ShareFile API, and you can always access that at api.sharefile.com. And you can log in at the top right with your subdomain and an administrative account that mostly has all access to your ShareFile account. And for this, I actually wanted to go to shares. So what I can actually do here is if I wanted to get a little bit more information, I can choose Get Share. As you can see, it's asking for the ID. So I'll simply put in that ID I grabbed from the report, and I could send the request. So as you can see here, this gives me a ton of information, a little bit more than the report itself, but it really kind of gives you insight of just how it was created and a bit more, again, information that I can digest. This is also good as if you do have a share ID and perhaps maybe the share ID got expired. Maybe somebody came to you and said, hey, I need to see who sent this, but perhaps maybe it's hard to find in reporting. If you have that share ID, you can simply put it in there. And usually the share ID, when you look at the URL, the ID is typically the one at the end, and it usually always starts with, sorry, an S. So that's pretty simple to identify. But again, a nice tip for you to come in here and be able to retrieve that share and that information. All right, last thing I want to talk about before I send this over to Greg is a bit about retention. I just want to do a high level here about it, but you have two different types of retention. So if you go under your admin settings, preferences, and file settings, you will see you have a default retention policy. Now that is going to adhere to anything new that you upload to ShareFile here on out. This is not retroactive. So if I set this now to 7 days and I save this, any file that is being uploaded after I save this has a retention of 7 days. Remember, retention items still get deleted and it still goes into your recycle bin. So don't be afraid, it doesn't disappear directly at 7 days. You always can retrieve it from recycle bin within 45 days once it arrives in there. But the default retention would umbrella everything under your ShareFile account. definitely reach out to your customer success engineer because we do have certain scripts that we can apply the retention period across all existing items. So again, if you're thinking that, definitely reach out to your CSE and we can help with that. But additionally, we also have based on folder permissions. So if I wanted to, I can come into this gray client folder. And as long as I'm an administrator, I can go into edit advanced folder settings. And then down here, as you can see, I have my file retention policy by default set on unlimited, and I can uncheck that and put in a certain amount of days that I want this to retain. This won't delete the folder. This is just going to delete the content that is in that folder. If you wanted the folder to actually delete along with it, the only way to do that is to actually set an expiration, and that is actually setting a date. So say on the 28th, this folder and all the contents in it would be deleted. So again, just wanted to showcase a little bit of how that looks, how you set up retention at a higher level. Definitely reach out to your CSE if you're talking governance and how you manage your data within ShareFile. It's definitely, again, a great opportunity to be sure that you're in compliance to set these different retentions. So now, if I did save, by the way, as you can see, when I set that 365 days, that will give the users an alert at the top here. They'll let them know that they have 365 days on any item that's brought in. And as you can see, this also indicates, well, this may contain a virus, but there is another indicator down here if the file is getting closer to those 365 days, that again, this is going to say that this file is going to delete closer to that time. So when it gets closer, you will see a little explanation point here to alert you on that. Just as a remark, Greg is actually going to show a bit of this later, but we do scan everything that comes in the ShareFile. And as you can see, this was already flagged, but Greg will pick up on that to showcase how that looks. But other than that, I'm going to pass it over to Greg to finish up our webinar for today. Greg?
Let's talk about single sign-on. So SSO can help bolster your organization's security posture by allowing users to access ShareFile using their central IDP login credentials. This can help by reducing the number of passwords users are required to keep track of, essentially lessening the password fatigue. It helps IT teams manage users in a centralized location and allows for additional safeguards in the form of multi-factor authentication methods. So here at ShareFile, we do support SAML 2.0 and 3.0 configurations, but we always recommend that an administrator references their organization's IDP documentation and tests the configuration to ensure compatibility. If you want to look at our official supported IDPs that have been tested and get some information on configuring single sign-on, we'll navigate over to our docs.sharefile.com page. We'll click on ShareFile. At the top right search bar, we'll just simply type in SSO, and we'll go to the security option here. So down on the page a little bit, we're going to have our single sign-on official documentation. So this goes through getting to SSO in the product. It's also going to highlight the supported configurations. Now these have been tested and are supported for most environments. So this includes the big ones like Microsoft, Okta, Ping One. So clicking on one of these links will bring you to our documentation on how to configure it. So you can see here, this brings you to Microsoft. But like I said earlier, it's always recommended that if you are configuring SAML settings, to check with your identity provider to see if there's official documentation on maybe how to set it up for ShareFile or just configuring for SAML applications. So let's dive in and take a look at what's required within ShareFile to provide users access to configure single sign-on and then actually configuring the setup in product. So it's going to require the account owner or a user that has permissions to set up the SAML configuration. So first we'll take a look at what's required for a user to manage the settings. So we'll go into Browse Employees, and just for today's webinar, we'll take a look at my account here. So if we go to my account, we'll go down to User Access. The permission that we're looking for is going to be under Company Account Info, and Configure Single Sign-On settings will need to be checked. Now you can see here my account has everything checked. This is a demo account. We need access to everything. But if you wanted to restrict what permissions are given to a user from an administrator perspective, you can come in here and maybe it's a IT user who doesn't necessarily need to manage the people or the files on the account. Maybe they just need to come in here to make changes and access reporting. You can give them exactly what they need within this section here. So for today, configure single sign-on settings is going to be required to do what we're doing here. So to actually manage the single sign-on settings, we'll go into Settings, Admin Settings, we'll go to Security, and we'll go to Login and Security Policy. So this is going to have some information on two-step, social sign-in, some auto remediation, which we'll take a look at a little bit later. But what we're focused on here is the SAML 2.0 configuration. And so this is going to be where you configure your entity ID, you're going to upload your X509 certificate and put in your login URL. So you can see here, this will show you little tooltips next to each one. So if you're a little unfamiliar with what you need to put in here, this will kind of help nudge you in the right direction. But also referencing the documentation that we have on the official docs page or your identity provider is going to give you this information and kind of tell you where to add it. So enabling SAML is going to be the first step. You want to enable it. You'll have an entity ID, and this is typically going to be your ShareFile account. This is where you're logging in from. The X509 certificate, this is very important, and oftentimes this can cause problems if it's not uploaded correctly. So this is going to be the authentication from the SAML response. This is going to be pasted in from your IDP. And it's important to copy the entire section of the certificate, so including the begin certificate and the end certificate lines. If you're troubleshooting and you're having issues, that might be the first thing to check, is ensure that you have the entire certificate without any extra extra text past or before the begin and the end certificate lines. Another troubleshooting step here is you can see on this account, we do have an expired X509 certificate. That's one thing to take a look at if you're having some issues using SSO on ShareFile. The logout URL, a lot of IDPs will provide a logout URL. That is no longer supported with this configuration. Users will automatically be redirected back to the ShareFile authentication page when they sign out. Moving on to optional settings here, require SSO login. So this is going to require non-administrative employees to log in using your identity provider. So for admin users or any user on the account that has even one admin permission set to their account, they're considered an admin on the account. Those users can log in with the ShareFile native or the identity provider, the SSO. So this prevents the account from being completely locked out. If there's an issue with the SSO configuration, something breaks. So that's important to note there, that if you have any employees with even one or two, they don't have to have all permissions, but if they have something that considers them an admin on the account in some form of fashion, those users will not be required to use the identity provider to log in. The SP-initiated SSO certificate and the SP-initiated auth context. This is going to be something that typically in our documentation or the identity provider documentation will tell you what to put for these for these options here. Now, there are some things to keep in mind, right? So if you're, using a dual auth, this might need to be changed to as unspecified. Typically, you see username and password used here, but again, just reference the documentation that we have on our docs page or your identity provider to ensure that the configuration is set up right, and definitely always test it before requiring this for all users. And then lastly, I just wanted to kind of show the login flow when SSO is enabled on an account. So for this, I'm going to actually log into my own ShareFile account. So this is my greg.h.sharefile.com page. So I'll start by putting in my email address. And now since I am an administrator on the account, it recognizes that. So you can see I have a password field, but I also have the ability to sign in with company credentials with this button down here. So if a user is an employee without admin rights, like we talked earlier, and force SSO or require SSO is enabled, this won't even show the password field. This will bring them right to the external identity provider to log in. But since I am an administrator, I have the option to log in as with my ShareFile credentials, and I can also use my identity provider using the sign-in with company credentials. So I'll go ahead and show you that flow. We'll go ahead and click company credentials. Now this is going to bring me to the external IDP, which in this case is my Okta account. So I'll put in my email address, and I will put in my password here. So now it's going to go ahead and log into Okta. It's going to authenticate me. It's going to pass me back to ShareFile with the user account I was logging in with. And now I'm logged in as the Greg H. ShareFile administrator, and I didn't have to use my ShareFile credentials. For the last section today, we'll discuss some of the security features and settings for administrators. We're going to show security alerts, what scenarios trigger them, and managing who receives the email notifications. Employee and client security and activity dashboard and what actions you can take on them. We'll take a look at the auto remediation scenarios where the system will take action without intervention. And then finally, we'll highlight a couple of our AI security features pertaining to files being shared and requested within your ShareFile account. So for security alerts, I'm logged into my account as the account owner is the only person who can manage those. To get to the notifications, we're going to go to admin settings, security, security alert settings. And so from here, we have 4 different scenarios. A user signs in from a different country. This is going to be a very drastic one, so this is going to be multiple countries being logged in. A user signs in from a different country, a different city using a different device than they're normally logging in from. There are multiple failed sign-in attempts on a user's account. So this kind of also includes the lockout. So this can be customized by an administrator. If a user fails to put in the correct password multiple times, their account will be locked out for a certain number of minutes. A suspicious file is uploaded to a folder. Now all files will be scanned as they're uploaded into ShareFile, and they will be quarantined and restricted if a malicious file is found. So these notifications can be configured to go to the admin or the account owner, the employee, or the client that actually triggered that event. And the admin in this case is the account owner. If you want to include other contacts, that's what we have down here for add alternate contacts. You can add individual users, or you can add distribution groups, and those will be contained under the admin here. So if you have maybe some users that are in IT that need to receive these notifications to take action on them, you can add them as alternate contacts. So I wanted to also show a sample notification that comes through. This is a security alert for multiple failed sign-in attempts by this user. So it gives details around who the user is, the device, where they're trying to connect from, and then a timestamp. There's also going to be an option down at the bottom to go directly to the dashboard, which will show next here. So accessing a user's security and activity dashboard, we'll go to Browse Employees. We're actually going to go to Client Context because this is the one that I triggered some events on. And you can see here immediately there's a visible security alert notification here on this outside vendor, just letting you know, hey, there's something going on with this user. So if we click into their user profile, we can go over to the Activity and Security Alerts tab. And this is going to list any of the recent alerts that got triggered. Now you can see here's that multiple failed sign-in attempts. There's also an attempted malware upload. So you can see the details here. On the right side is going to be actions you can take immediately. So if you wanted to disable access or log this user out, you also have the option to reset two-step verification here or reset password. Now these are going to also be contained within the basic information here. You can see you have actions on the right. So the activity and security alert dash here, this is just going to have things pertaining directly to remediating a situation like this. So the alerts can also be cleared. You can review the folder activity, and this is similar to reports that you can run within your ShareFile account as well. Next, we'll take a look at the auto remediation, which is a little bit different than the notification. The notifications are going to come through and it requires an administrator to take action on it. The auto remediation scenarios will automatically require a password reset for the user triggering the notification or the scenario. So for those, we'll go into admin settings, we'll go into security, and we'll go to security policy. And this is where earlier in the webinar we configured the single sign-on settings, but this will be right at the top, auto remediation. So we do have a few scenarios here. The impossible travel, so if a user is logging in from multiple countries in a very short span of time, which is impossible to do, that will trigger a password reset for that user. High download activity, a change in download activity trend. So if a user is downloading a lot of data that is abnormal, it is outside their normal download cadence, that will also trigger a password reset for that user. That is just to prevent somebody who may have gotten access to a user's account and they're trying to do like a bulk download of the data from your account. So that will trigger that auto remediation. Access from high number of IPs, a change in trend of accessing IPs. So if a user is typically logging in from maybe the office or from home, maybe they have a vacation home, they're always logging in from these locations. The system's going to detect that they're accessing the system from a number of different IPs that they're not normally logging in from, and that will also trigger a password reset. Now these also send notifications, just to keep that in mind. So these are great for just taking action on abnormal activities that maybe are time sensitive and need to be addressed right now. The system will require a password reset. And then the last thing we'll take a look at today is going to be some of our AI security settings. And these are going to be under admin settings, advanced preferences, AI settings. Now, just to preface here, the AI features on ShareFile are going to be at the premium license level or higher. So if you are on ShareFile Advanced, you won't see these options. The two we'll talk about today is going to be the Secure Share Recommender and the AI-driven document validation. So first, the Secure Share Recommender. This is going to be a file is going to be analyzed for content and sensitive information before sharing. So if there is any identifiable information, and let's say a user is trying to share this out as a public link that doesn't require any login, the system's going to recommend that they set the security level to require login for accessing the file to prevent any um, documents from getting out in the wrong hands, maybe with some protected information in it. So to show you this, we'll go into a folder here, and we're going to go ahead and let's upload a file. So I generated a file, a test file, patient information test, which has some information that the system should scan and detect as identifiable information, and then it should require us, or excuse me, not require us, but recommend us sharing it a certain way. So we'll go ahead and upload that, and we'll go to share. And you can see here that immediately the system analyzed the file, and it says this may contain personal information. Anyone can download without signing in, and it recommends that you create a share using a secure link. So that's that AI tool in action. Um, Whenever a link is set to public and the document has potentially identifiable information, that is going to kick in and recommend changing it. Now, while we're talking about that, I can go ahead really quick. If you're an administrator and you don't want the option for users to share using a public, uh, anonymous, or public requiring just a name and email link, you can change those settings within advanced preferences, file settings. You have your share settings, and you also have request settings. So if you didn't want the anyone public or anyone public must enter name and email, you can turn those off. You can also change the default permissions if you wanted when a user goes to share a file, by default it will set the minimum security, which can be changed, but you have options here to completely disable it or change the default permissions. Just wanted to highlight that. And then the last tool we'll take a look at is the AI-driven document validation. So this is going to be specifically right now, it's going to be for client users who are part of a project who have a document request list. This is going to validate the documents that they're trying to upload to ensure that the file being uploaded pertains to the document request. So if, let's say, the example I'll show here is actually going to be switching over to a project here I'm in as a client user. It's going to be a government issued photo ID, and they're going to try and upload that patient information file that I created earlier. It's going to verify, hey, is this the right file that should be uploading? And it's going to recommend re-uploading if it's wrong. So what we'll do here is we'll go into the document request for government issued photo ID that we're asking this client for. And let's go ahead and add a file. We'll grab that same patient information test file that I created earlier. We'll go ahead and say upload. Now, essentially what the validation is doing, it's saying, hey, we're looking for a government issued ID. You're uploading a file that's called patient information test, and then it scans the content of it. And it's saying immediately, we think that patient information test.docx might be the wrong file, might need to upload a new file in. So in this scenario, it did what it's intended to do. And essentially this could prevent, this not only saves time, but it could prevent somebody from uploading a file that has PII in it that was not needed. It just ensures that the files coming into your ShareFile account are correct. So then we could go back, we could delete this file, and then we could re-upload our actual government issued photo ID.